Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Hub Culture Chronicles podcast coming at you from the Hub Culture Climate Campus in Belém during COP30. We are going to be joined now by Peter Boyd, who is my old friend. We have worked together for many years, and we'll get into how and why. But Peter is today with Yale University, where he teaches a class called Connected Leadership with the Center for Business and the Environment, CBEY at Yale. Peter, welcome to the couch here at Hub.
This is amazing.
I hope you've had a good COP. Can we start with, we're going to get into the connected leadership and what this course does to help leaders lead, and all the frameworks that you've created, which I think is going to be so valuable. But can we just talk about us for a second?
Be selfish, yes.
How are you, and how has your COP been?
It's been amazing, and even more amazing now. I know people potentially listening, but I'm seeing the real Amazon out the right eye, and a beautiful moving montage of the Amazon on my left, in this converted rowing club. And I know hopefully people have heard that story. So it's just incredible in terms of where we are. I think it's also incredible setting in terms of bringing the world to what needs to be done. We all sort of, I think, thought that as countries coming in going, right, it's a COP in the middle of the Amazon. But it's also in a city that is wrestling with how to be sustainable and while it's being unsustainable. So I think we're seeing a city on the edge of the Amazon, on the edge of the rainforest, it's wrestling with the problems that the rest of the world is wrestling with as well. So it's fascinating.
Yeah, it's almost a microcosm.
Yeah.
And there are many themes and conversations that have emerged out of this COP. For a year now, we've been saying dream new dreams because we had never heard the term urban Amazon before until we started spending time in Belém. And then we realized that there are 10 million people in the Amazon and 3 million people in Belém. And suddenly the idea of how cities engage without destroying nature is very top of mind here. And we see that with all the plastic and pollution that runs down the streets every day when it rains, or the waste management. We see it with so many issues here.
But I think we've seen these cities over, as you say, we've been knowing each other for a while. But was it maybe Cancun or around there that was the first, and then and then into Katowice and the challenges of effectively turning coal towns over to a sustainable future. So the COP, as you say, is a microcosm of what the world needs to do. As
we saw it in Baku with the Caspian and oil drilling in the Caspian.
And visual.
You see it in Sharm el-Sheikh with the reef and the protection of the reef along the Red Sea.
And the shipped in water to Sharm el-Sheikh, to the hotels.
Yeah.
Coming in on trucks.
Yeah, so many issues. Well, these are all actually functions of leadership, which is what we're going to talk about today. So you run a class called Connected Leadership. It is available online and in person. It has thousands of students, and it has been very successful in building a framework for leadership for executives and others around the world. It's wonderful to have Yale in the house, one of my favorite universities. Can you tell us about Connected Leadership, what it is, and then we're going to get into both the 4 Ps, and then what we call multi-level scaffolding,
which I like,
which is really around self, team, and system.
That's right.
But what is this class, and what are the 4 Ps?
Yeah. Okay. So well, it's grounded in basically take it up a level. It's grounded in part of my purpose, which is like that our world learns to live and lead for good, and that sort of everyone deserves to sort of have agency in their own lives and be the best leader they can be. I want, on personal mission to try and make sure people live into that word leadership. It's not always a positive word, especially if you've been on some of the beautiful panels I've been hearing here. Like you're on the wrong side of the wrong kind of leadership. You might not want to be a leader. So it's about stepping up to being a leader, as well as being the ability to be a better leader. I think the other bit is that I'm passionate about the fact that leadership can be taught. I think there's far too much, both in academia large, saying sort of it's a thing that you either are good at or you're not, and then some people outside in the real world thinking that that's the case as well, and so that there are tools, there are frameworks, and to put them all together. So it was very kind of you to say that it's a holistic, like all-in-one sort of framework, but it's built on lots of different sort of wisdom that has come over many years, many different frameworks. What I think I'm trying to do is put it into one place and one coherent structure that somebody can keep improving at and keep knowing that they're getting better at. So you asked about.
Is it so it's like an evolving structure, or
The structure is 2 dimensions of connection, and so I suppose, and I use the word scaffolding a lot too, in that I think of the role of a coach and a leadership teacher, and others, of which there's lots of us around the world, as scaffolding, as in we come around. Hopefully, you can surround the building with both, sort of, so the builder can build with both hands. But the hard bit is really the building, and the master builder is the exciting bit. So I always think of myself, and I think most people should do, in that coaching, teaching environment, with the humility of the genius is the builder, the genius is the leader. I'm just here as a scaffolding maker. I'll help you sort of with a framework. So the framework doesn't move. Hopefully now that it's scaffolding. The building is the dynamic piece.
Yeah, very interesting. Okay, so let's get into the 4 Ps.
Yeah, great. So
shall I say them, or would you like to?
I
think you can say them. What are the 4 Ps?
There you go. So I think of connection. I talked about it in 2 dimensions, and I'm sort of using my hand here. And the connection is almost like with oneself as a leadership self, to be connecting to your purpose, questioning and really confirming why you're here. And that is as hard at 20 as it is at 70. So questioning and confirming purpose. Then priorities, clarifying and almost personalizing how you want to spend your time, and name the things that you really want to do to spend your time well. Third one is potential. If you are clear on your purpose and your priorities, then being able to look, and it's so beautiful that I can actually look out at the Amazon horizon and say, like, what does it feel like to be there? Wherever there is, 1 year's time, 2 years' time, whatever your planning horizon. So that's potential, 3rd P. And then the 4th P is progress, which is attach your to-do lists and your daily decisions and your monthly decisions and the way you go about the world to the first 3. And too often those are unanchored to each other. And so I use a visual of a rope. That it's the 4 fibers of the rope are when you're centered and mindful on all of those 4 Ps, your leadership strength is at its strongest. Now, the magic of a rope is like if one of those fibers frays, the rope doesn't fall apart. That's why, so a rope is better than a chain. Like one link and you're done. One fiber frayed, you're not necessarily weak, but you're at your strongest when you're centered and mindful of those 4 Ps.
So interesting and amazing. So I love also that the progress side is actually about accountability and measuring these things against these other things. Because so many times I think we have goals, but we forget to measure our progress along the way. And when we do that, maybe we can get discouraged, or we can't actually map how far we've come, which is some of the motivation that keeps us moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the flexibility within the 4 Ps is almost I meet as many people the other way around that are on a treadmill and they're ridiculously good at writing to-dos and crushing them on a day and a week basis, but then they're unanchored to their purpose. And what are they really trying to do in the world, and what are they out there for? So I think of these things as almost like a constant interplay where somebody is thinking like as I say, why am I here? Therefore, what's important to spend time on? What do I want? Where do I want that to look like, and where am I heading? And then, am I actually getting there?
Can we spend a moment on how you find your purpose? I was speaking to somebody here this week at COP, and they were saying that they had not realized how disconnected they were from purpose, because they were kind of going through the motions of their work, which is, valuable, but they felt here at COP a renewed sense of purpose. But for someone who is vague on their purpose, or they don't actually feel their purpose, or they're working quote unquote for money, because a lot of people do work for money, and purpose is not attached to their work, how do you recommend that people discover that first component?
Yeah, it's such a great question. I mean, starting, it feels like I just went to sort of Alcoholics Anonymous. It almost starts by just admitting that I want to do it. I actually am curious and I want to dig in, because it does take a while to do it properly. So that's sort of, I am curious about digging into my purpose, and I think that is almost the first stage. There's one of I set up in the course, there's 6 questions, and they're part of the scaffolding of you answer these 6 questions, and then you look at what that tells you. I then sort of say, this is why I asked those questions. So sometimes it's helpful to know why, like the reason behind a question, and then reflection, and you can dig in a number of different ways. There's, as I say, these questions end up with the last one is Dan Ackerman's, like, what do you want to do with your one wild and precious life? That just knitting together of, like, time is so precious, and can we tap into the preciousness and fleetingness of life, as we are considering our purpose. I think that's something that I try and help people with. And then there's people that almost like don't like the school of thought, and I want to make sure that they feel like they're in the room too. I can't remember the author's name, but he talks about, like, there's no big P of purpose. So if you meet somebody and go, like, I don't want to do that, and I'm like scared, not even scared, I just dismissive of it, to find little P's of purpose. I think we're all quite good, like maybe without the capital letter, and go, like, what lights me up? Like, what gives me energy? Who lights me up? Who gives me energy? Hanging out with fountains, not drains. Like you can. I think you can get a long way of doing something like my course, but then like on a day-to-day basis, be in tune with those little P's of purpose.
So, the side of being a leader is often about other people buying into your vision and then trying to bring them along with you. So, because this is about connected leadership, are you saying that these 4 conditions, purpose, priorities, potential, progress, are necessary to lead a team to your goal?
I do think it not so much necessary, because let's just look around the world. There's an awful lot of leaders that potentially don't lead like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm talking to a certain type of leader, or a curious would-be leader, or an inspiring leader that says, I want to lead from here, and I'm sort of feeling the heart and the head at the same time, and I want to lead in a genuine way and a purpose-connected way. So I think we're sort of speaking to them. I also think that if you look at most of the great leaders that, and I do this in classes, in workshops, executive teams, etc., and they put up leaders they admire. You look at them, and I think they lead with those 4 Ps firmly in place. They might not have done a course, but they lead with that authenticity, that connected authenticity of purpose leads to how they spend their time. So I do think you're taking us on the other dimension as well, which is great. But that idea, that I do think that the best leaders are connected. Those 4 fibers are ridiculously strong. But the other dimension, if I think of purpose to progress, is self to team to system. But you really can't lead others well until you've figured that self layer out.
So we have a 4x3 self-team system.
That's right.
We're going to get to that in a moment. Before we do,
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit more about the potential?
Mm-hmm.
When I think potential, I tend to think about our time with people like Jack Hittery at Google X and Moonshot.
Oh, well, yes.
And Jack and I did a session some years ago that was really stuck with me about moonshots. And I think of a moonshot as the kind of ultimate extension of potential.
Yep.
And one of the things that he told me in this conversation that we had was that, if you take a 5-year time frame and you put yourself from X at the starting point and Y is the ending point,
Yep.
and then you put another Y at a completely different length of distance, which is the time, and then over here another point, you can end up in vastly different places. And his point was that moonshots are often not really requiring a huge amount more effort than the status quo. It's just that they require a completely different trajectory and a completely different direction. And I found that so amazing.
Yeah, that's
because you could have 5% incremental growth on what you're doing over the next 5 points in 5 years and get to Y, or you could spend that same amount of time and energy over the next 5 years going to a completely different why. So I guess my question is, do you agree with that? And how does the potential side of this map? Because your potential could be really whatever you say it is.
Yep.
How do you define that so it's more achievable?
Yeah, what a great question. And the short answer is yes. I love Jack Hiddery's thinking on this. That sounds great. But as you say, let's link it in to the purpose and maybe super quick via priorities, because the sort of hook that I hang, or the hook I hang my stuff on there on the priorities, is a classic Stephen Covey, decades old. What are your rocks in the jar? Rocks, pebbles, sand. If you put the rocks in first.
Well, we're really going for all the metaphors today, aren't we?
Oh, there's tons. But I think that's right. That's how we learn. We learn in visuals. We learn in stories, which has been so amazing about coming to Belém. You just the stories and where they come from in the storytellers, and we learn from visuals. So I love this: the rocks, pebbles, and sand. Rocks in first, then pebbles. They fit around the edges. Sand fit around the edges. Everything went in. Sand first, pebbles. Oh dear, like 1 or 2 rocks of your 4 rocks. So getting people to think, what does high quality time really look like? What is a purpose-driven life? A full jar for me. What does that look like? And that's where we spend quite a bit of time, both one-on-one coaching to teams to online. But the potential then, once you've got your rocks, because I think that gives you a place to give you your new why. If you spend the time on purpose, spend the time on what's important, and then, as you say, the potential is like, where could I be with those? And I use the sort of this term PQRST for setting your goals. And using with a little word for each letter, which is like, first set the date at a date that inspires you. So Jack's 10 years, 5 years, or next, so 1 or 2 years. Then write the thing in the past tense like it happened. So craft the sentence like an Olympian would, like the classic sort of case of like visualizing success. You're about to say something.
No.
So that's the P. Write it in the past tense. Next one is Q, is like liberate your brain to think on both sides, left side, right side, quant and qual. So putting things that don't often have quantitative numbers with numbers. Some people, when they're doing this with, say, their other half, is just like quantify how many dates you want to have. Like the problem, you don't have enough dates because you're not saying it's 50 dates a year, or it's 12, or it's whatever else you want to do in your partnership. So that's like, put numbers to even up the playing field, and also liberate your right side of the brain to think about something huge. And that's where I just immediately went, oh my goodness, yes, to Jack's, like, set the why out there. So quant and qual. And then RS and T go together, which is realistic, as in you have some agency over it, you have some influence on it. So I think even Jack's moonshot isn't completely in his sphere of concern. It's got something in his sphere of influence idea. Like, it's not, it might not be just in your control.
Yeah, it's not like totally lupo.
Exactly. It's not like I want to do, I want to solve climate change because I'm here in Belém. But I want to create as many inspired, purpose-driven leaders as I can in climate change. It's like, ooh, that sounds interesting. So that realistic, stretchy, is it stretchy enough? Therefore, the last one is T, toastable. Could you be sitting here at the date that you put at the top of the page with your favorite person next to you, with your favorite drink in your hand, and you're going cheers, and you got a huge grin on your face because that thing is true?
Wait, I missed the S.
So realistic,
stretchy.
So those two go together. Like you want to almost like in your sphere of control and influence, but stretchy enough that you actually have to reach for it, like Jack said.
Yeah.
And then therefore, hopefully you read the sentence and you go, that's toastable. Massive grin on my face if that is true at the date at the top.
Yeah. Okay, great. So give us a quick recap on PQRST.
Okay. Write it in the past tense. What is true at the date you put at the top? And then Q,
qualitative, quantitative.
Exactly. Do both. So it's really Q2. And then realistic, but stretchy, therefore toastable.
Okay, I love it. So we've got some scaffolding emerging here. We got our 4 pillars, and then we've got these, like, let's just call them shelves for BQRST. And then we're going to now look at the kind of system side. You're taking us on multi-level from the person to the team to the system. That kind of goes back to my earlier point about, like, how do you bring your team along? If you're a leader, you probably have some kind of team around you who you're trying to motivate and inspire. I know that's something that I'm often trying to do with my wonderful people within Hub. So talk to us about the transformation of this from your own personal self into the organization and then society at large.
Yep, and again, you can lead. One of the things we open with is like you can lead at any level. So we are now talking about like I've decided to lead a team. I've decided to, but that's one form of formal leadership at the top. There is like you can lead, you can co-lead with others. But let's, as you say, go from you've sorted yourself out, or you're always a work in progress, but you sorted yourself out, and then you're going, I want to lead a team with this. Really, as you correctly did with your math, you're like it's 4x3. You know, like there's the 4 P's, and let's go out. It's like, well, think about what is a really compelling purpose for a team. It's typically a vision and mission. You like a vision mission statement. Sometimes vision, mission, and values as 3 sets of statements that purpose statements go together. So when that is done with authenticity and that sort of moonshot element to it, it's like, and I think it's always worth separating vision from mission. And as I did to you at the start, it's like, I think a vision is just such a bold sort of view of the future that you want to be true. And you get up every morning trying to work it towards it. And you will not tire of it. And then a mission is almost like that. I like your angles. It's like, my mission is our trajectory to get there. We are going to do this to get as close to that star as we can. And if it's a really well-crafted mission, it says as much about what the team doesn't do as well as what it does do. And so vision and mission and value. So that's just one of the P's, but that's a good example of like that kind of moving out from self 4 P's to team. You can do these 4 P's, and there are frameworks, and you can be a better team.
So the mission and the vision are the guidance for going from self to team.
Yes. Well, as in, if I was to create or help a team with the sort of that top P of purpose at the team level, then I'd be helping that CEO and that team come up with a crisp and inspiring vision, mission, and values.
And Slack and Monday are the ways to do the priorities.
There you go. Well, priorities there. Interestingly, probably, there's a ton of tools, isn't there? Amazing tools to collaborate on these things. But actually, an offline, good old-fashioned, like, what are our rocks? And getting teams to discuss what our rocks are, naming them properly. Like that's a thing that we want to spend time on and be great at, because otherwise that vision is not going to happen. I think some good offline versions of that, and then, as you say, then plug it into Slack, plug it into Notion, plug it into anything else, but do the offline work first, which has got a heart and head component to it.
Side note question, from a Yale perspective,
Yeah.
because you guys are all so smart over at Yale, do you have a sense of what is the best software for running these priorities? Like, of those things, and you're going to pick 1 or 2 for your organization, what do you think is the best on the market right now?
I'd only we're not so smart, and I don't know anybody else. What's it? The more you know you don't know.
Yeah.
And then I think the other one is we're definitely not sort of running startups with slick software. Having chatted to entrepreneurs, I think the key piece is getting the thinking done first and plugging it into whatever tool the team likes to do. So I'm not going to skip the question, but it's the idea of like the upfront thinking of, like, I don't know, whether it's Asana or Notion. Notion, I'm hearing good things about. Is this like it's like if it's organized by rocks, if it has the vision and the mission at the top. What's the other one? Entrepreneurs Operating System, EOS. A good partner of mine in Canada uses that. You know, if that's got plugged in with a thought, then I think quite a lot of tools work well.
So yeah, that's so interesting. So like you've really got to start with a thought, and then from there, any tool might get the job done.
I think so. I think with the AI and other things, it's like all these softwares are getting better and better. They're presumably looking across their competitors saying, oh, there's a feature that we quite like. So it's almost like pick your lane on the software, but don't skimp the work on the head and heart work to see what is going in this.
Wow, fantastic. Okay, so how does this become connected to the systems thinking that is societal?
Yeah.
How do you take it from team to society/system? And what does even system change mean? I feel like we all hear this idea a lot. And it's this vague ocean. But how do you actually get to systems thinking, and why is that important?
It's yeah. Well, why I love your last line. Let's start there. Your last line. There's a wonderful quote from John Muir that says, "If you try and pull on anything, you realize it's hitched to everything else in the universe." And that to me is almost like the why of systems thinking. If you don't recognize that you're in systems nested with other systems connected to other systems, then almost anything you try and do will have unintended consequences that you hadn't thought through. Even if you do systems thinking, you will still do that. But especially if you just blindly think, I'm going here unconnected to others. So I think the first piece, as you said, is why it's important is important because we are complex systems operating within complex systems, and then we've got this beautiful complex system that's sort of in our screen behind us and surrounded by nature, incredibly complex systems. So that's the why. Do you want to go like the what?
We, I guess, yeah. I mean, I'm also kind of like the how, but maybe the what first.
Well, let's maybe try and cover them both in terms of like I think the underappreciated thing of nearly all the leaders that I've ever worked with, and even like when I was a leader myself, like I'm trying to work through this stuff. When we were chatting, I was working for Richard Branson, and I think we underappreciate that last leap from team to system.
I think it's the hardest.
It almost well.
Because if everyone was achieving system change, the system would look a lot different.
True, but if everyone did the inner work, then we'd be full of much nicer, purpose-centered people. So I think there's difficulties at every step. But on the system, I think it's the most underexplored by a leader. And let's just start with maybe the definition of what it is. It's a collection of things or elements that interact in a certain way that fulfill a certain purpose. So that's almost like just the sort of textbook definition of it. But that could be anything from a car, a bench, the sofa's a system in a sense, the trees a system. So that's not really helpful, but for a leader. But then the leader, I think what's most helpful for a leader is to think of a system, much like we talked about on goal setting, that is big enough that's exciting.
So a system doesn't have to be the system. It could be like a small system.
Exactly. So it's like you'll never get the boundaries right so that you can say, I now know my system, because you'll never. It's always connected to something else. But it's getting it big enough. Say like you were talking about the ocean fund. It's like big enough to say like I want to solve this, but I don't want to solve the whole oceans, or like everything to do with the oceans. Yeah, but we're going to do this and this.
Where do you even start?
But these three categories, for instance. So that idea of putting boundaries around a system and say like, this is the thing that we're excited to work on, and I think we are also excited to explore how it works. Because I think the first piece of systems thinking is to think, well, what is the system? Why is it there? And then one of the most helpful ones that comes from Donella Meadows' Water Center for Systems Thinking and many other places is the iceberg. The idea of what you see of any system, or what everyone sees, is the tiny little bit of snow at the top. And what's going on in the system is under the water level. And it's harder and harder to see the stuff that goes, the deeper you go. But if you think about it, and again, there's tools like prompt questions and an iceberg, like on a worksheet, you say, well, this is what everyone sees. Just underneath the surface are the trends. This is what's happening over time. And again, most people can see that if you just eyeball from a boat and you could see down there, that's the trends. Underneath that is the structures. This is how this thing works. This is what the feedback loops are. Because that's tax, then this happens. Because that has an incentive, this happens. Oh, but there's a delay, so this happens. So that idea of like the rules of the game is the level beneath. And then underneath that, which we seldom explore, is the paradigm that created it in the first place, the belief that is happening. Do you want an example? Would that be helpful?
I think that would be very helpful.
So, very quick example done by an absolute rock star student and Jackson World Fellow, Chin Nguyen. I hope I pronounced her name not too bad for this. She's the director of traffic in Vietnam. So, the trafficking of pangolins is probably her biggest, problem.
Okay.
So at the top of the surface is how many animal deaths there are. And anyone could potentially see that if they picked up a newspaper. Underneath that is a trend that is potentially that online boom of illegal trafficking in COVID drove the whole thing far harder to police. And you think, oh my goodness, that's an interesting trend. The structures underneath that, which she went into it was saying like, the problem is CITES, the Convention for Endangered Illegal Trade of Endangered Species, they penalize the supply side country 90% of the time and not the demand side country. And so no wonder like this thing pops up somewhere else because you're not penalizing the source of demand. And then at the paradigm at the bottom, which I thought was super powerful when she came, sort of displayed it, was that our right to medicine trumps the right to survive as a species. Our right to use nature, sort of trumps the right of nature to live. And so that was her sort of top
Kind
to
of
bottom
ironic.
iceberg. And so her interventions are then at every level in order to try and move it.
Okay. What is a life map?
Oh, you picked that up off the course. The life map is a wonderful place to start if you want to go deep with a team, or indeed deep with a leader as a self-discovery. Going to that person that was dabbling with purpose, and it's just a blank piece of paper, and you draw what's happened. Where are the paths? Where has it taken you? What are the big events? Where were the big choices? The forks in the road? Who are the people? And again, I'm intentionally leave it as a blank piece of paper because some people draw a tree, some people draw a path, some people do bullet points and a flow chart. But that's all it is. It's just sketching your life.
One of the most interesting things I've seen on that topic and trend is an exercise on people who've had the most impact in your life. So if you were to pick 5 random people in your life and then trace back how you met that person, and then how you met the person that introduced you to that person, and then how you met that person and how you met that person, generally you will find that this leads back to just a couple of people in your life. And it's actually a really interesting exercise to go back. Often those people will emerge out of your childhood or out of like your kind of college years.
Yeah.
Maybe your days at Yale, if you happen to be at Yale, or at a community college somewhere
Hey, I'm
else,
elite. Come
anywhere. Or your job that you had when you were 18. And there are certain people in your life you will discover are these like vector points that had a huge impact. And
That's amazing.
years later, you may not even realize that half of your constellation of people that you work with might have come from just a couple of single people. So I encourage you to start that live map and try it yourself
and then
go
put it
back
into,
and see.
put it into. And can I give you a quick story, because you've teased me at least, or me and potentially the audience, at least twice about Yale. I didn't actually know where it's coming to your point about the people in your life. I didn't know where it was, and I vaguely heard of it when 5 people, when I moved to town in Westport, Connecticut, said you must meet Dan, and then 5 people told Dan, you must meet Peter. He's just in town, international climate change, stuff like that. You must meet him. And then Dan said within 10 minutes, you've got to meet my friends Brad and Stu at Yale. And I said, where's Yale? And he goes, don't worry, you'll find it on Google Maps. It's okay.
I visited Yale. Yale was my dream school, but I visited it as a freshman and was like, wow, I wish I could go to Yale. But I went to AU in DC, and that was a great school, and I loved that experience. And it had a huge impact on my life because I had one person in college who hired me, and she probably changed my life more than anybody.
Is she the nectar?
She's one of them, yeah, for sure. Like, I worked at a little store in Georgetown, and she made introductions to me that got me working for Margaret Thatcher in college. And then from Margaret Thatcher, I went to connected to Forbes. And then from Forbes, I got connected to Fortune and Time. And I worked for them for a long time. And then I started my company and wrote for CNN. And so like all these vector points can come from this one wonderful person in college who I knew who gave me a chance. So I think that also underlines the importance of giving young people a chance, because you never know what kind of impacts that can have.
And I love that. And I think we do some of this in the course and in coaching as well. It's like, I think of 2 words of time when I'm saying about maximizing time: chronos and kairos in the Greek. And I always finish a workshop with this, because like chronos is the art of planning, like the art of ordinary time, and doing the rocks and doing the things that you think like this is my pitch, this is what I'm trying to get done in the world. And then kairos is the spirit of the air of like you have to move, it's extraordinary time. And I think if we do the work on the kind of chronos time and the 4 Ps and all that sort of stuff, then it's not that then life goes like that. You're then ready to see the moment when it's like, I gotta go. Dan says, I've got to meet this guy, Brad.
Yeah.
You're or you said, I got to meet, I've got an interview, Margaret Thatcher, or whatever it is. Then you got to go. And I think we've got to be in tune with both of those.
So I'm going to end this conversation with you by flipping this model back onto yourself and the course itself. You have thousands of online viewers. What is your connected leadership strategy for growing the impact and reach of this course?
That's a great question that is, as you say, live in front of me. So I'm clear on purpose. As I say, I want a world full of these leaders that are purpose-driven system thinkers. But I'm just starting to think, geez, 100,000 is quite a lot, but it's then not a lot. So how can I add?
You have 100,000 people in the course?
There's more than 100,000 enrolled currently on the Connected Leadership course.
Amazing.
And then but again, it isn't amazing. And then you look at the state of the world and you think, but it isn't. This, what if it's 1 million? What if it's 10 million? It's and it doesn't have to be my course. It'd be courses like them. But that idea of how do we create enough purpose-driven system thinkers that can think in those two dimensions of connection and can change the world and system. So I'm trying to think, how do I really create critical mass? I am wrestling with that. I would love ideas on it. I'd love partners on it. So that is what I'm currently wrestling with. How to get breadth, not just depth. Because I know when you get somebody and you see their eyes and you're like, okay, this person's going somewhere. This is awesome. This is exciting. And they're going to change the world more than I'm ever going to do. Who's the next? The bit that I'm now struggling with is the sort of, how do we get breadth? How can we get 10 million people thinking about this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, amazing. Well, certainly AI probably will play a role in that. And I would like to extend an invitation to you to think about how your course could become a foundational point of the work we are doing going forward after COP30 in the Amazon. We're creating Hub Amazonia off of the back of this, which will be a 3-year program here in the Amazon to drive some of the thinking and momentum forward from this activity. So I'm going to make a commitment to you that we will study this framework and aim to adopt it within our work so that we have a clear plan going forward for Hub Amazonia.
That would be amazing. I would love to help.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, well, for everyone who has joined us, thank you for listening. We have had so many conversations from the Hub Culture Climate Campus here in Belém. We have another session coming up with commitments. But for now, thank you, Peter,
Thanks
for
so
your
much.
flexibility and for your insights.
It's so great to see you again.
Peter and I go all the way back. We were in Cancun together.
Yeah, I think
we
2010.
we did a dinner around a pool at the Hub in Durban.
Yeah.
We were in Rio together with the Carbon War Room when you worked with the Carbon War Room, and we renovated a favela on Avenue Niemeyer that was hanging over the ocean.
Oh, yes.
Do you remember that? We were in Sharm el Sheikh together. I think we were in Madrid. We ran across each other. There have been many years and many COPs, and then your incredible work with the World Climate Summit and that work that they do. It's really been fun on this journey with you guys.
It's been great. And yeah, World Climate is a lovely middle spot in the middle weekend between these COPs, getting business politics together and scaling action. So yeah, I've really enjoyed the journey, and you do hold a fantastic venues. And I love this is capital improvement for the future, not just a wonderful venue for the COP. So well
Absolutely. Done. Thank you, Peter.